Right, we have a quorum, right?
Yeah, we have a quorum.
We have a quorum. We are back from exec session, so we're going to go ahead and get started. And we're going to stop talking and so we can do the pledge. Here we go. Go ahead, Brett.
I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I always feel better having Brad lead the pledge since he's an Eagle Scout and I'm not. I'm not sure, Dr. Brown. Every building I've been in today has been cold. I think it's I'm glad the whole community is saving money on energy and they're not heating buildings.
including us.
But it's exactly. It was rather cold, and it was cold in the other room. Nicole's
shivering.
All right, Nicole's still shivering. And we are back, and where are we? We are. I assume that there's some walk-ons, modifications to the agenda.
Yeah, there's two that I'm aware of. There's a personnel report dated today, supplemental, and then there's also a resolution having to do with the hearing officer that got posted 2 minutes after the meeting was convened, so we're walking it on to add it.
Convened at 6:07, I suppose, or whatever.
Yep.
And that's going to be a part of the consent agenda?
Yes.
Thank you, I appreciate that. Thanks for that. Without objection, we will add those modifications. Public comment period, folks are going to talk later. Anyone else that wants to speak? No one signed up. We'll keep moving. If we don't want to speak, okay. And on to student reps. And LACS is, I see, there's lots of people here from LACS, so go ahead.
Yep, the two of us. Okay, so in the past couple of weeks at LACS, let's see, one of the main things that's been happening is the LACS Shakespeare has been rehearsing Midsummer Night's Dream, and that will be going on December 1st through 3rd. The LACS Shakespeare program is all student-led, I believe, and it's student-directed, so it's really great to see how hard our peers are working. I always love going to the Shakespeare shows. A lot of my friends are in it. And next week we can have flyers for you guys if you want to come and see it as well. It's a suggested donation kind of thing. Also coming up in December, which we'll have flyers for this thing also, next time is the LACS annual spaghetti dinner. And that's going to be on December 13th in the Ithaca High School cafeteria. And the spaghetti dinner is LACS's, like, one of our main fundraisers where we raise money for different things we do in the school, as well as the opportunity for family groups and projects and committees to have tables at the spaghetti dinner where they can sell crafts and baked goods and have silent auctions. I know we're going to be having a really big silent auction this year, I think, at the spaghetti dinner. So all of you are invited. We'll have flyers next time. And I know that family groups have been planning their fundraisers, which is really exciting.
All right, so this year, ACS is going to begin its first steps in integrating the PBATs, which are performance-based assessment tasks, into our curriculum. Because we don't do regents, we are required to have some kind of on-demand knowledge assessment of the core topics: science, math, English, and social studies. Every student has to have a 15 to 20 minute presentation on each of these topics. There'll be two assessors in the room, one who is from ACS and they know, and then one from the community. They can present any work that they are very proud of from their whole high school career, so one from each core subject. It's for juniors, but if the student is not taking a math class that year, they can do it their senior year. Yeah, we're really excited about this.
When
Because,
did you start it?
sorry?
When do you do it?
this year, right?
We've just started it, so this year.
This year's juniors will be doing.
But at the end of the year, or?
Oh, I was just gonna get to that. Because it's really new, we wanted to try it at different times in the year. So the first ones will be December 20th, and then I think mid-April there will be other ones at Cornell, and then at the end of the year in June, like during Regents Week, is when they will go on.
Also at LACS lately, we've been having a lot of discussions about safe spaces, and the topic of safe spaces has been something that's been a theme throughout the beginning of this school year. We've had some discussions at ASM that ended up being a little problematic, but that sparked kind of a question of what can we do in our school to incorporate safe spaces into classrooms and into ASMs and committees and everything. So that is something we're going to be working on a lot this year, and we're really excited to kind of progress in that aspect of LACS.
At the end of the cycle, we're coming to the end of the cycle, or you call it marking period, I think. And normally, the students have to write evals at the end of first semester and second semester. But this year, in order to take this like enormous load off the teachers of writing evals for the students, we're going to do one at the end of each cycle, and in another effort to take the load off the teachers, we are encouraged to kind of show ourselves off. We have to promote the things we do really good and make it easier for them to write the evaluations.
Yeah, so those are going to be like usually at the end of each semester, as Naomi said, we write like kind of the teacher will provide prompts, and it's like the LACS grading system is we write self-reflections as students, and we get evaluations back from our teachers for each class, committee, project, etc. But those are usually by semester, and then seniors would have had to write them every quarter. And now everyone is writing a self-reflection every quarter, and the teacher is giving back an evaluation every quarter. But the students' self-reflection is going to be more in depth. So we're excited to see how that kind of changes things up. That's all.
Wow. LACS sounds like a lot of work, Dr. Brown. I'm an Ithaca High guy. So Ithaca High, how's things? Go ahead.
So this past Friday, the 3rd, the Student Council Schoolwork Subcommittee arranged for Deep Boys bathroom stall walks to be fixed, which from what I've heard was a pretty well-received improvement, considering the fact that some of the gentlemen of IHS have been using toilet paper ropes to keep the doors locked. And throughout the month of November, Link Crew will be hosting a food drive in which they collect canned goods as well as dry goods to donate to a local food drive or organization.
Model UN had its first conference this Friday and Saturday in Hilton, New York at Hilton High School. The conference overall was a great success. There were many new members, and many members won awards as well.
This upcoming weekend, Brain Team will be participating in a competition, and International Club will be providing the lunch for this competition. And next Tuesday, Brain Team will also be holding a trivia night in the cafeteria, which is open to the public.
Debate Team had its last tournament this past weekend, or its first tournament this past weekend, and it went against the U.S. national team and did very well, and also won against private school teams such as Exeter.
This past weekend, the school hosted the play Fools. It was a wonderful production. It was incredibly funny, and the students did a wonderful job. And lastly, Key Club held a blood drive, which was a success. A lot of people donated blood.
And a new club at IHS is Ithaca Welcomes Refugees, and it's every other Thursday. And its main goal is to raise money for the refugees in Ithaca. For sports, there are a lot of successes in sports. The girls' swim team won the Section A championship. The boys' varsity soccer team won regionals, and now they're on their way to states. And the cross-country team also won the Section A championships. And we've been hearing a lot of questions from kids in our school inquiring over if gym is going into GPA, as well as confirming if music is going into GPA.
Thanks to the guy, and perhaps we'll get an answer to those questions from someone in a moment here. And yes, boys soccer team going to Final Four, actually, I believe. So they won their first state round, I believe. So excellent. Anything else? Lots going on lots going on at both. And LECS is really hard, so that's all I know. So board responses, anyone? Anything? Other than, didn't we fix all the bathrooms at the high school? How long did I hear about bathrooms at the high school, and we went in, partitions were fixed, and I'm looking at finance committee,
Yeah,
facilities.
they're all redone.
Well broken.
But
So I assume that
have since been abused.
I assume some boys at Ithaca High broke those new
Have since been
partitions, and so it's probably better to leave the closures in place rather than breaking them, then trying to use toilet paper to close them. So you might send that message back to the guys,
I'll let them know.
don't break things. All right, okay, all right. Anything else, Moira? Anyone?
Well, I was very interested in hearing about a lot of things at LACS, but particularly about the PBATs, and I'm really anxious to know more. Particularly, I'm interested in how community members are going to be involved in the process. So stay tuned to hear more about it and check it out. Good.
Pat, you good? Anything?
Yep.
Okay, all right, we will move on. Consent agenda, so we can,
I'll move the consent agenda.
I'll second it.
thank you, I can't do it myself, all right, so I appreciate that. Moved seconded by Brad. Anything that we need to highlight?
I don't know.
We're all good? I'm hearing nothing, okay. You're
There's
looking, Brad?
there's one item on there, agreement with Danville and Key, and that has to do with our health, being
Right.
self-insured and doing some work on that. That's why you've got an auditor you haven't heard about before.
Right, that was the one item I think that is out of the
Out
ordinary.
of the ordinary.
Right,
Yeah.
okay. Move seconded, all in favor? That's everyone. We are 9 minus 2, 7 tonight, right? We have two folks that could not be with us tonight, Sean and Eldred. So we will push on without Sean and Eldred, Dr. Brown, to your spot. This is your spot, Dr. Brown.
Thank you for the opportunity, Ms. Ames. And I'll be brief because we can't wait to get to this amazing group of speakers lined up here. But first I'll have Ms. Coyle stand up and speak to the EPA questions we were hoping to talk about anyway.
So administrators and teachers and staff, and we've had input from students as well, we've been collaborating on how we can put the performing arts into the GPA at Ithaca High School, and we are proud to say that we have gathered a lot of data, talked to schools from around the region, and starting this marking period that is just getting finishing up. The performing arts classes will be a part of students' GPA, and we are going to send out an email with a statement to all students and all families at Ithaca High School, as well as putting it out onto our website. And the advanced classes, which include wind ensemble, chamber orchestra, chorale, will all be weighted as honors classes because they are advanced classes. And this was as a result of a lot of work looking at the rigor of the curriculum, the assessments that the students take. Many of the classes involve not only going to class, but then going to an extra session or lesson. And we feel that with that rigor, it needs to be a part of students' GPA. We are working with the PE department at the high school at seeing if we will add that to the GPA next year. So that will not be added to the GPA this year.
Is there any retroactive for like?
Nope, we could not find that, nope. Nope.
But the point is, other districts do indeed provide credit. I mean, this is not,
Yeah,
That's
so
something
they
that's
get
totally
grades and it's on their transcript. In terms of calculating the GPA, we felt that this was a class that an area of classes that merits being a part of the GPA.
And the PE piece, I mean, is that, is that?
We are working on it,
Do other
Josh.
districts do PE for?
It was much more mixed
Okay.
with that, and also the PE department, K through 12, but also specifically at the high school, is working on new state standards as well as a new curriculum to go with those, and they really want to take the year to really develop both life skills classes and a really rigorous core curriculum. So that was work we've already started with the PE department. Yeah.
Is the music classes, is that an option to have it in the GPA, or now it's mandatory?
It is part of the GPA.
It is, so they can't opt out to take band as an activity.
No, it is a part of the class, the class schedule, course of classes, and so that will be reflected in the course of studies.
Okay.
So,
Thank you. Two quick plugs. December the 5th will be Team ICSD Day, the second year. So get your cardinal out and be prepared to wear it on December 5th. And share pictures on social media or any way you wish. Send them to our ICSD communications email account. We'll talk more about this at the last meeting in November, but I want the folks to mark their calendars now. December 5th is also the day of accommodation and a board meeting. So it'll be a busy day to celebrate the impact the school district has had on individual and collective in that lives of the community. And finally, in collaboration with students also, because there's been so much negative on Twitter, we decided to do some more positive things on Twitter. We've been doing a Twitter takeover the last 4 Fridays, and we plan to continue to do that every Friday we're in session, where young people and classes will take over my Twitter account and post about their days and from their perspectives. Everything from what they're eating for breakfast in the morning to their thinking about teaching and learning that's taking place in their classes. It's been fascinating for me to read their thinking, to read their thoughts on what's happening during the school day. And what's an unintended consequence of this is that we've had folks from all over the country pick up on it. We had a group of educators out in California for a conference, and they were actually looking at the feed from last Friday and commenting on how it was an example of how to empower young people, but also some of the thoughts and questions that young people raised about our approaches to grouping, physical education, grading, dress code, classism, racism, sexism, you name it. So we have some very thoughtful young people, and empowering them in this way under my name and my face is a little unnerving. But they are using a hashtag, so you'll see the students' initials will be hashtag their initials and then their thoughts. So you will know if it's me or them. But there's some surprises we have planned for the next couple of weeks. We won't do it on this Friday because we won't be in session, but we'll pick it up after the break and hopefully continue it as long as I can stay out of trouble back there. So that's it. Thank you, Sam.
Those are good, I've been following it.
They've been cool.
Very good.
Yeah.
I was somewhat concerned the first time because I actively follow your Twitter feed, Dr. Brown. What the heck was going on? Well, then I did recall that you did say you were going to turn it over, and I recognized the young man doing it. So, but it is, it is interesting.
So yeah.
No doubt, and we look forward to that in the future. All good, Dr. Brown?
Yeah, all good.
Dr. Brown, let's go right into school district business, and we are going to get opportunity to hear from some of our leaders in the district. And Dan, Brian, you are up first. That's great.
Thanks for giving me the opportunity to talk about Bill Sherman. I hope everybody has a handout in front of them. That'd be great. So I'm just going to talk a little bit about why Bill Sherman first. And then, so at Bill Sherman, we really believe the highest level of learning comes through experience or experiential learning. And the past few years, we're able to come together as a campus towards a common unifying focal point of our nature trail. And through this common goal, we were able to develop really high-level curriculum through our grade-level teams, where each team could solve problems through the development of essential questions. This work helped to empower our students to become experts in the work while making the work very relevant to them through local connections. One of the most powerful examples we had of our case study work, which we shared on our first celebration of learning, was a really powerful collaboration between our music and our band instructor, where students went on the trail. They went in different listening. They did a guided listening activity where they went in different places, and they listened. They took notes, and then they created an original composition with the band, and it included car horns. It included seagulls, children's voices, and it was a way that we kicked off our first celebration and learning. And it's actually something unlike I've ever seen as an educator. It's somewhat of an experimental composition. We also work very hard to create an inclusive environment. We spend a lot of time working on our response intervention system, where we support the whole child. We work very hard at Bell Sherman to create classrooms where every child has a peer through language, neighborhood, a variety of other factors. And we provide instruction exposure to different cultures, and because at Bell Sherman we speak over 23 different languages. So we want to make sure that we highlight that. We also foster innovation through teaching and learning and through experimentation. We've done a lot of work with computer science. I'm proud to say that we've created a coding curriculum through a number of years of work. We're currently piloting a makerspace, and it's ongoing work. We've also built and extended a number of relationships with Cornell. With Ithaca College, one of the programs we've created with Ithaca College is language immersion in art and PE, which is definitely out of the box. And we're very proud of finding creative times to give children different language opportunities. At Southside, we've done a number of coding events, and we're also building our relationships with GIAC. But all this work happens really because of our positive school climate. And I think one of the most important things is we focus more on creativity instead of compliance. That's one of our biggest things. And it's our positive school climate and culture is basically created through relational trust, through trust with teachers and students, teachers and teachers, and teachers and administrator, myself. And I think a big part of this success has been shared leadership of empowering teachers, supporting teacher leaders at Bell Sherman. And it's not just that, but it's also, we, as a team, we have a shared belief that through a goal, we can overcome challenges to positively impact our students. And I think that's been the biggest part of our nature trail success and our curriculum work. And lastly, at Bell Sherman, we focus on culturally responsive teaching practices. We make sure to communicate high expectations. We do it through collaborative work through our PLCs. We make sure our grade level teams are consistent and set very high expectations. We've been making also a lot of shifts towards student-led conferences. The power of that is students are empowered, their student self-assessment. We work very hard to make sure spaces at Bell Sherman, students can see themselves and their cultures reflected in respectful ways, And most recently, I was really impressed with our PTA. Our PTA has set up a committee of teachers and parents to make sure all of our events are more inclusive, are accessible, and we're looking into more transportation for families. And I went kind of fast. But
Plenty of time for discussion.
yeah. So.
And I should have done a better job of framing it for everyone. We've asked each administrator to come to the board, and we will continue this through March, probably, and answer that question, the charge I put out there, why school, but answering that question from a perspective of their individual department or school. So why Bell Sherman, or why Fall Creek, or why athletics. And then we've asked them to speak to, in their buildings, how they're supporting the key district levels that are behind me here. Around teaching, learning, innovation, inclusion, and culturally responsive practices. So that's the framing, and you're going to see and hear and feel the different personalities of the individuals and their school codes.
So Dan is very compliant and following what you wanted.
You've been coached.
Yes, that's true. I did try to connect to, a variety of different levers that we have and board priorities. It's at the bottom of each of the sections, but, I'm happy to take some questions. Yeah.
Yeah, one of the things I'm really interested in is to hear more about your coding and how you're doing it, where it's going in the curriculum, how you're bringing it up through the school day, because I don't know how many others of our schools are doing it, so I'm just curious, how is it working?
Well, it's not during the school day at this moment.
Okay.
It is when we do Hour of Code and some other events, but it is after school. And it was started with a grant that I received from Triad. And what we were able to do is to work with Cornell professors, Chris Schaefer and some of his graduate students. He's a professor of computer science. And they helped to drive the curriculum development for the coding work. It's loops, conditionals, it's a variety of different coding principles. Luckily, I'm excited to be leading a group that is looking at how to integrate computer science more into the school day. So that is definitely something that we are looking at and is a priority for us.
You're very humble, Dan. We worked with Cornell Tech this summer, and the folks from Cornell Tech came up and worked with us and some other folks in the region. And Dan has been sent in charge to lead a committee in our district to figure out how to implement those strategies. K-12
Thank you.
was to include a coding curriculum that he has already piloted, but what would that look like in every building?
So this is Diane Levin?
Yeah, Diane Levin's group, and she brought up some support. And there is a grant that our region has received to support those efforts. So we're in the process of planning a field trip to Cornell, Texas campus. We will most likely take this committee down, but be looking for more from us as we talk through and work through what this is going to look like for us.
So this isn't going to be a one-off, we're actually going to try to scale it.
Yeah, this is real. Again, you were way too humble.
It's not just coding.
Yeah.
It's much broader than that.
Yeah.
Algorithmic thinking, I can say it.
Right.
It's a great.
You can think of it, we won't say.
But it's much more than coding. It's computer. It's a different type of thinking. Yeah. So the makerspace we are trying to integrate during the school day. And we're thinking of, but we're still at very early stages of that. And this work is actually helping me think about how this committee can operate through experimenting, through trial.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Chris?
Dan stole my first question, so.
Sure.
But I really thank you, by the way, and I appreciate it. You really checked a lot of the boxes, and I appreciate that. Just all cultures represented in a positive way, which is extremely important to me, and I think it's lacking in our broader culture these days. Could you elaborate on that? Just give a couple of specific examples.
Of how we share culture at Bell Sherman?
Yeah. Well,
Okay. My social worker, not my social worker, our social worker, yeah. I'm thinking of one example that just happened. He created a United Nations group, calls it the Bell Sherman United Nations Group. It's a group of international students, and they welcome new international students that come to Bell Sherman. And I've been particularly impressed with the group because they have experiences with transitioning to a school, and they can talk from their shared experiences with the students that are coming into Bell Sherman. You usually pick students who've been here 3 or 4 years to guide newer students, and we try to also do some matching of shared experiences with these students. So that's the one that comes to mind. I think that we do it in a lot of ways that many schools do. We just had our We had an international, we have an international day, which sounds like something that every school does, but it's a little bit different. So one of the things that we do differently at our international night is we have a large group of Korean families, and the Paul Family Singers, which is a large group at Bell Sherman, do an interactive sing-along with them. It's very moving. They teach us how to sing with hand movements. It's very interactive. These are just a few experiences. There's so much more than just a few examples that I'm giving. Yeah, no problem.
Others? Oh,
Yeah.
So I have a question about your student-led conferences, and is this augmenting or replacing what in my day was known as the parent-teacher conference? Or could you tell me a little more about, or tell us all a little more about that, and when it kicks in, and say what form it might take for a first grader as opposed to a fourth or fifth grader, what the expectations are?
I'm thinking specifically Tara Kaiza, who is now a tech TOSA. She's working with a number of my fourth grade teachers in student-led conferences, and I'd say what they do is they, it definitely is different from the parent-teacher conference that you're talking about. This one connects to, she's done a lot of work with our fourth grade team where they have set up expectations in the beginning of the year that the children will come back and reflect on. Behavioral expectations, different standards, and there's been a lot of front-loading to make that happen. So when they get to the conference, there has been a lot of pre-work, and the student, in this last week, I saw a lot of students taking pictures of artifacts that they were going to share that can help can support their progress in a certain goal that has been set for themselves. And I would say at Bell Sherman, we do a lot of parent-teacher conferences, and they do look differently. They do look different at different grade levels. I would say predominantly we do them at third, fourth, and fifth grade at this time, but we'd like to expand them to kindergarten and first grade as well. Now, a kindergarten and first grader reflecting on a goal is going to look a lot different than a fourth grader. So we'll have to have very narrow and specific goals that are written in very kid-friendly language that connect to the report card, if that makes sense. Okay?
Yeah, thank you.
Hi, thank you. I wanted to point out I appreciated the amount of time or detail that you put into the positive school climate in terms of talking about relationships and the different levels of relationships in terms of teacher to teacher or administrator to teacher. And also shared leadership, because I think sometimes leadership can very much feel like from the top down, so everyone in the building feeling like there's some equity there in terms of everybody at the table has something to bring and everyone's going to hold their weight to support all the students. And then also just in terms of Pat's question to you, I think it's really great for teachers to see how students are experiencing their learning experience when it's a student-led evaluation or when they're telling their parents about what they've learned in class. I think it can be really important for the teacher to see through the eyes of the students what they're taking from the classroom.
I agree, yeah. No, I think shared leadership is thanks for saying that. The reason that we're a great campus is because I have so many different teacher leaders, student leaders, and it's not me, it's the team, it's the group. That's what makes it a great campus.
Thank you.
Other questions?
Transition?
Ready to move on, Dr. Brown?
Yeah, you would. Okay.
Thank you, Dan.
Why school? This question has inspired lots of journal writing, and I'm going to share some of my thoughts with you. school is a special place where the joys and tensions inherent in being human are lived in community with others of all stages of life and all backgrounds. The loving mindset allows these realities, including the reality of conflict, to be learning experiences. School is the safe place where young people learn to express their thoughts and feelings, engage with those who think and feel differently, and work out ways not only to coexist peacefully, but to fundamentally augment their own human experience. This is the gift that school gives us. Why public school? Benjamin Barber, who's a political scientist and wrote a book called Strong Democracy, writes that public schools are not merely schools for the public, but schools of publicness. Institutions where we learn what it means to be a public and start down the road toward common national and civic identity. We're linked to the mission of the common good, which means that we provide universal access to free education, we guarantee equal opportunities for all children, unify a diverse population, prepare people for citizenship in a democratic society, prepare people to become economically self-sufficient, and improve social conditions. I've been reading a lot of blogs written by instructional leaders all over the country, and I'm particularly inspired by Carol Burris, who's the principal of Southside High School in Rockville Center, who writes that there's a compact between a community and its public school. It's a promise that the school will teach every child that passes through its doors, poor children, affluent children, children with disabilities, and children who show great academic promise. The common public school is required to teach the easy to teach and the difficult to teach. The common public school is there for the student with strong parental advocates and for the child who is, for all practical purposes, alone. Most important of all, it's where such children meet and sit side by side in classrooms, on bleachers, and in cafeterias. They learn from each other as surely as they learn from their teacher. That social learning is also what gives rise to the promise of social progress and social reform. So what does the common public school of Fall Creek Elementary look like, sound like, and feel like? In other words, how are we creating a school of love and learning using the levers of inclusion, cultural responsiveness, and innovation? On PLC Day in October, the staff members of our community began studying the work of Ross Green and how his model of collaborative and proactive solutions might look for us. We used protocols from the National School Reform faculty and began to define ourselves as a critical friends group. We decided that when we address challenging behavior, we will do so within the context of restorative justice. This means that rather than traditional decontextualized or abstract consequences as discipline, we will be engaging students in learning experiences focused on shared problem solving, on understanding one's own feelings and the feelings of other people, and repairing relationships when there has been damage done. Family partnerships are growing strong. It's been very interesting to see the empowerment of folks who have not been part of PTA. We had a parent who was particularly impassioned to lead a whole school experience around bullying prevention, and she did it. She just went for it and did it. A person who was not previously involved in PTA whatsoever was a leader for the entire school over several weeks of Friday program and classroom activities and extension activities outside of school. I've had some wonderful experiences at our PTA meetings, getting to know and welcome our English language learner children and parents. So just last night I had a wonderful dinner where I sat with two people who are learning English together, and they helped me learn a tiny bit of Chinese, mostly about vegetables that we were eating, and we laughed and laughed. I want to highlight some of the teaching and learning experiences that are happening at Bell Creek, especially the evolution of case studies. I'll be describing a recent observation cycle in 4th grade, where their case study is about the Haudenosaunee. Their fieldwork includes walking right outside our door onto the trails that were used by Haudenosaunee in the past and are still used today by our very own students and getting around Ithaca. As part of that work, they have been reading the historic markers that were written along these trails and have been rewriting them to be more inclusive. There is some talk of how this work will be shared either with an additional QR code added to the historic marker that can bring visitors to the student-written additional information or augmentative resources. The kids are bringing it right into the present day, noting that these trails are still part of lived experience in Ithaca. They are the first experts that our 4th graders encounter in this work are 7th graders who are doing their celebration of learning at Boynton. So they have a gallery experience where they invite our 4th graders and they speak to the culmination of their learning about the same topics. I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the interesting grants that are in process. We are working on a Connecting Classrooms grant with Northeast on reimagining recess. So this will involve providing time, space, and materials to support child-directed play at recess, to improve creativity, problem solving, resilience, self-regulation, divergent thinking, conflict resolution, empathy, communication skills, social emotional learning, and synthesis of classroom learning to real-life contexts, which is a mouthful, but if you've watched kids engage in child-centered, adult-supported play on a playground that maybe has loose parts, that has interesting opportunities to interact with the natural world and with each other, you know that that is not, that's not pie in the sky stuff, that's the stuff of childhood. We have another grant in the works, which we know is definitely happening with BJM, and it's the Music for Unity and Social Change, which has happened at BJM in the past and is expanding to include Bell Creek, and involves 4th and 5th graders integrating social studies topics through experiential learning, songs, dances, and instruments from Native American, African, and Latino cultures, and they also integrate it with studying the civil rights movement. The last one is a public art grant that will connect to the 2nd grade case study around community. So that is with Bike Walk Tompkins and CAPD, and we will be partnering with Caroline on that to create a mural in the intersection. So there's one sort of by Hickey's music, and we want to put one right at the sort of bottom of Bell Creek, like King, maybe, and Tioga we're looking at. And the children will be involved in the design and creation of that mural. I'll just end talking a little bit about our learning environments because they're really changing, whether it's from necessity of not having chairs at the beginning of the year or kids having input onto building their own learning environments. We have, in our classrooms, you'll see tables that have children sitting on the floor on cushions. workstations that are standing workstations, lots of areas for small groups of various sizes, and some opportunities for some privacy in classrooms for kids who need to have that at certain moments in their day. There's also lots of movement going on, so you will see all kinds of ways that teachers are incorporating dance breaks and rowing machines and all kinds of ways for kids to be moving around. And of course, the use of technology to create their own products and share their learning with a wider audience. I'd love to hear your questions and be able to speak more directly to any of the things that I've mentioned.
Feedback. Ann, go ahead.
Well, it sounds fantastic. I really loved your first statement, just such more of a response. I thought it was really beautiful. I really appreciate that, and it sounds like some great stuff. So a couple of things that really kind of jumped out at me. The recess piece, I think is really exciting because, I mean, I personally kind of feel philosophically that recess is one of those parts of the day where just so much takes place and that it's kind of an untapped part of the day. So it's really exciting for me to hear that you guys are like really thinking about it in a constructive, in that kind of way. And the also what jumped out at me were the history markers. God, that would have a really nice tie-in, I think, to some of the things at the History Center. I mean, that could have a lot of tie-ins all in a lot of ways. So I'm really, really interested. Well, comment or question, I guess.
Chris, go ahead.
I just want to make sure first that you have enough chairs available, just so we got that covered.
We don't necessarily need all those chairs, but we do have enough.
Would you care to elaborate on the whole restorative justice piece and
Yes.
what that's looking like? Because
Yes.
as a person who was raised and brought up in an understanding of discipline being the course and restorative justice, while I still struggle, admittedly, I know there's a balance, but really, what's the transition? What does that look like?
Yeah, I think that the first I need to talk a little bit about empathy and relationship building, because coming to know the students and being able to understand how they are experiencing their own school lives is a prerequisite to that work. So all of the adults involved in their lives need to know them. Once that has happened, that is like, we're getting there, right? We're getting to know each other, we have some shared experience now, some history with each other, so to speak. And so when the natural conflict occurs, deep and authentic conversations that draw from students what is really going on with them, where the root problems lie, and how to collaborate on figuring out a solution that is mutually agreeable and that makes it right with whatever relationship or thing that was damaged, right? Putting together that plan as a partnership lets that learning really go in and be generalized to the next encounter that could possibly lead to conflict. Rather than, so I would say that in asking students about it and in watching them sort of like after the fact, or just continue in their school lives, what I'm seeing is kids who are able to identify their own challenges and their own methods of overcoming or methods of coping, and then helping other kids do the same thing. So that seems like the kind of learning from mistakes, so to speak, that we want to, it's sort of like self-perpetuating, right? So that front loading, because it's all about, like, you can't just be some guy off the street coming in and having this restorative justice meeting with kids and figuring it out and having it really work. It's specific to being part of that community together, right? But it seems to me very much worth it when you can see these young people then carrying it through independently.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Other comments, questions? Well, I just, do we have to, are we at the point where we have to teach kids how to play when they go out to recess? I mean, no, I'm just halfway, I am more or less serious.
No,
But,
that's-
you know, recess was, we're gonna go play, and we're gonna go, and there's gonna be a teacher kind of keeping an eye on us, but we're gonna go and play and clap. We're gonna do whatever we're gonna do for 15 minutes because we have to go back inside.
Right.
So what's
going on with that?
So, well, no, I'm just allow you to elaborate a little bit on that.
Certainly. So I think that watching a recess right now, one might see that that the adult input is quite a bit of don't do that, don't do that, don't do that, or sit over there, or, you know, say you're sorry, or these other things.
Right.
But adult-supported child-directed play is a concept that lots of people are, there's quite a bit of research, and actually one of the people who has written a couple of books on the topic is a parent. And it's pretty interesting to sort of like provide stuff, loose parts, certain kinds of challenges in the environment, and then step back and allow kids to just play, but work through some engineering challenges, collaboration type challenges, give them the kind of prompting that sort of keeps it productive without being a lot of rules, and don't do this, that, and the other. So it seems sort of simple and straightforward, and it also is pretty complex.
And I was skeptical as well. And I read Rusty's book, the parents' book this weekend, and I also looked at the videos online. When you see it, you can't see it. Because I was like, well, how are we teaching kids to play now? Are we going to make recess academic? And when you see how the spaces have been transformed, it leads to a different kind of play. And it leads to less adult interaction and more student empowerment. It was amazing to see. So maybe we get a copy for folks, because
Absolutely.
I learned something this
I
weekend.
actually brought some.
Yeah.
I have a question about that as well. So would the kids not be just like playing on their own anymore? Would they all be involved in these like group games, or?
They would definitely be playing on their own. And they would probably congregate to things they were just interested in. So they may form little groups, like if several children are interested in constructing things up from loose parts, that would be available. If other kids are interested in building from natural stuff. So interestingly, we did a little tour of the playground together, Rusty and I, and we noticed like all kinds of little areas and little things that had been constructed by kids out of sticks and leaves and all kinds of stuff that they just found. And, you know, what if there was more opportunity for that? What if there was stuff provided other than sort of like mowed grass or, you know, a structure? I mean, it's interesting, we create these playgrounds, right, that sort of mimic like the natural world, like things to climb on and places to go under. But what if we just provided more of the natural world for them to explore in and create from. And yeah, even like throw a cardboard box in there and see what happens.
Just want to add to that just a little bit, because last year I went to the play symposium that was given by the Children's Garden, which they're big proponents of this idea that play is just a really critical part of learning, that we have this idea, and so that the idea is to actually make it easier for people to be independent, where not everything is fixed in place, but where you can just kind of, as you say, pick up for your environment and turn it to your own invention, as opposed to having kind of some adult to having kind of figured out what something is for.
Yeah.
So for me, I'm really excited. I know that there have been parents who have expressed interest in that idea, maybe because partially because they're with the Children's Garden and all being close by. But just to say one other thing though that I was thinking about in terms of recess. Is that it seems to me that a lot of times there's relationships that take place in recess between kids that have huge impact on the day, and that it's like this whole other world. And so it's like, and when I was saying my other comment about tapping into that, it seems like that was, I don't know if that's something you're also thinking about, but just how much you can learn just by watching the way the kids interact and then how they bring it back.
Yeah, it's a hugely important time of every elementary school child's day.
So I worked at the Children's Garden over the summer. It was mostly just in the garden, but we did get to go to the Anarchy Zone, which is the corner of the Children's Garden where there's tractor tires and chunks of wood and they have this berm thing full of mud. But I guess I remember from elementary school, man, it was so long ago. But the adults, you said they were there to say no, don't do that. But at the Children's Garden, the counselors of the camps there, they were taught to not really do that. Still be there, and if somebody was about to hurt themselves, step in. Seriously hurt themselves, step in. But just be there. And also, if a kid, I don't know if this would be really possible in school, but if a kid invited them to play and they would, and they were encouraged to, but it couldn't be well, I guess not couldn't, but they wouldn't just step in and start playing with them. They would want the kid to invite them to play, and it wouldn't always be verbal. It'd be I'm gonna throw some mud at you. And it was really meaningful to me to get to interact with kids that way when my elementary school was a lot of kind of plastic equipment. So.
Thank you for sharing that. I think that
Glad I asked about recess. My favorite, it's always my favorite subject. So, but Dr. Brown, we want to transition one more time.
Yeah.
Thank you. Samantha, go ahead.
Thank you. So much my colleagues have experienced or celebrated successes this fall in athletics, we have as well, and Asha alluded to some of them, so I won't mention them, other than I'm hoping that the third time is a charm. We've offered a fan bus on 2 other occasions to see our boys soccer team, and we would love to have our 9th through 12th graders go and cheer them on in the state finals. We would need to leave at 5:30 in the morning because the game's at 8:45 in Middletown, New York. However, I know we have enough school pride and spirit to do that. So in addition to the boys soccer and girls JV and boys soccer, well, let me start by saying she talked about boys soccer, she talked about cross country, and she talked about our swimming and diving, and we were all champions in those realms. But also our JV girls and boys soccer were stack champions. Girls tennis, and Asha's a part of the tennis team. We had 5 stack all-stars, and in golf we qualified 2 students for sectionals in May. And you have a document there in front of you. I want to say as much support as we have for athletics in our community, without our coaches and our students and our boosters and our bus drivers and our custodians and our grounds and maintenance, it wouldn't be possible to do what we're doing. There are 23 sports with over 100 coaches, and it really is a collaborative team effort all the way around. So I do want to say many of the successes this fall are also due in part to the team that's supporting our students and our coaches. So just a little shout out to them. And 2 dates that I want you all to put on your calendar. One is tomorrow, it's November 8th. We're doing a National Letter of Intent ceremony at 5 o'clock in Culp, the atrium. So we have several students who have already decided where they're going to be participating in athletics at the collegiate level. And then January 13th is our Hall of Fame induction, and that's at 2:30 in the multi-purpose room, and it will be in between our boys basketball is playing on that day. So it'll be in between the JV and varsity basketball game. So when we think about why school, we think about athletics and just the opportunity that both, I think, athletics and the arts affords students. It's another platform for students to develop the essential skills that they need to be productive members of our society. So from character development and identity, empathy, being able to take feedback and give feedback, work collaboratively with a variety of people towards a common goal, and that whole relational trust piece that both my colleagues talked about. So those are some ways that why athletics are so critical and important, the arts and athletics. An example of some teaching and learning innovations, I'm excited to say that we have a Captain's Council, and what's really neat about this is that we're partnering with IC and Cornell, and their student athletes are coming down and mentoring our student athletes. So we have our fall captains, and now with the winter season, which started yesterday, we will infuse those captains into the Captain's Council. So our group's just gonna get bigger and bigger, so that's just more thinking and ideas. But some of the stuff that we're working on is leadership development, conflict resolution. We're talking about drug and alcohol use and harassment, physical and mental conditioning for athletics and life success, team building, community involvement, really looking at how we can get down in our middle schools and in our elementary schools and really partner and collaborate and be role models for, so it's really looking at a pre-K-12 program in athletics. There's some other things we're doing with Family ID. We're offering an opportunity for families to sign up. We piloted in the this winter with basketball, wrestling, and boys swimming. And then in the spring, we're going to be fully implementing this electronic method for families to sign up for sports. So hopefully that's going to just alleviate paperwork. And we're also piloting for the district, because eventually we can move towards having our field trip forms, we can have the release of information, the photo releases, all of that. So that's kind of unique to Horse Heads and to us at this point doing that. Talking a little bit about culturally responsive practices. We have developed a head coaches council, and that's looking at building frameworks for what effective coaching looks like, developing what the essential skills for students should be able to do as a result of the athletic development, but also then the person development, and we're looking at ways to celebrate and figuring out where students are, how we're partnering with school counselors to ensure that we're meeting the needs of students and that we actually know the students, that we're not having like a one-size-fits-all for, I'm the coach, this is how I do it. No, we want to know about if there's an IEP, if there's a 504, if there's something that our students are involved in and we weren't aware. So we're really looking at the social emotional aspect as well as the academic. Inclusion, in terms of inclusion, I'm really excited to say that for all of our home contests, students are getting in free. We started that in the fall, and it's been successful in terms of just gaining more entry for students and seeing a lot more faces out and about. And we are also working with our special ed department to offer unified sports. And that is, we will have a team of possibly about 12 to 15 students, and it will be comprised of students who have a classification of intellectual disability, and then also students who have no classifications at all. So at any time on the court, it's a 6-week basketball program. At any time on the court, you'll have 3 students that might have a classification and 2 students without. And we're gonna partner with Link Crew and Avid and our girls and boys basketball team and our Captain's Council to kind of develop that program, what it should look like. And we'll compete against other schools in the stack. I want to talk a little bit about kind of like what's next for athletics and wellness. And I've been working with Liddy on this a little bit and looking at a mentoring program for coaches that mirrors our teacher mentor program. Our coaches are teachers, and we need to have them accountable and living our key levers and what our district mission and vision is. Many of them are teachers in the district, so it's a natural alignment to do that work. Also looking at developing a tool to evaluate our coaches, myself, and our athletic programming. If you'll notice, Lynn was very helpful. At the top of your document, there's some data around fall participation. So, you know, that's another vehicle for us to look at who's participating and why. And that's what we're hoping to also get out of this evaluation tool. And then the wellness piece, Kathy Sinat and I are hoping to get that committee up and running in January. To you know, just support the emotional and physical work that our folks are doing, our educators. And in the meantime, while we're waiting for that committee to get started, we have a monthly wellness challenge, and we have the pool open 2 days a week for staff to come in and swim, and then the wellness center is open in the morning from 7 to 8:30, and then also in the afternoon from 4 to 6 for folks to use. So that's kind of a quick summation of what's happened so far.
Comments, questions? Chris, go ahead.
The Captain's Council, you said Cornell Captain's Council, which is the varsity captains, right, in fall and winter sports. Do we have anything that trickles down to our varsity, you know, modified, just so you have that older student reaching out and almost mentoring, we're giving them something to work up to? I know we had some different things in the past. I didn't know what was going on right now.
Well, we just started the Captain's Council, and we're using Ithaca College and Cornell to kind of mentor us. And as we build the seasons and get, you know, more students, then we're going to look at what we kind of want to accomplish. But some of the stuff that we're doing now with the Captain's Council in terms of role model or leadership is, like I said, we've had some students that have gone over to Boynton to talk about sports and participation. And then we've talked to Josh Chase is working with us with the elementary physical education teachers, so we can come in and do some clinics and also just kind of get involved with the elementary piece. So it's kind of a work in progress. Yeah.
Other questions? Brad, go ahead.
The past couple of years, before each season, we brought all the teams together and their parents in the assembly, and I understand that's been dropped. Curious what your thinking was in doing away with that.
I'm really big on small group instruction, and I think sitting in an auditorium for 3 hours listening to people talk, and we couldn't really monitor who was coming and who couldn't. I'm not knocking it, I'm just saying in terms of my philosophical practices around teaching and learning, I think it's important to have that connection with the coach to be able to ask specific questions in regards to how, you know, the program that you're involved in. So that was one piece of it, and then also too, so we can follow up with those families that weren't able to attend for whatever reason. We are going to offer some other opportunities. We have some speakers that have contacted us, but I really want to make sure that I'm talking to the students and to the coaches to make sure that they feel like it's going to be beneficial. But we're looking at putting on mini series for families and students and coaches to come together around different topics that we're kind of dealing with, whether it be you know, the promotion question of, we're noticing how students are kind of specializing in one sport. So we want to talk about being multi-sport athletes and talking Ithaca Athletics as one team as opposed to I'm a hockey player or I'm a basketball player. So that too is kind of like
a little bit of history. We did that fall kickoff, winter kickoff, spring kickoff, 6 years. And the first year, and it was always mandatory for every parent to come and student athletes to come. And those first years, people couldn't wait to get here, and they were lined up at the door. In the last few years, people were dreading coming. And so it was time for us to evolve it. Yeah, the first few years we had to do it to establish a culture. We gave out the T-shirts, we talked about expectations, and then folks were hearing they had that part and they wanted the more small group. That was the feedback we were getting. And when folks were walking in saying, "Oh, I got to be here tonight because it's mandatory," that's when we knew we had to change.
Go.
Hi, thank you. I think you hinted on this a little bit, but I was wondering, once there's a tool developed by Len or yourself, will there be any intentions put into looking at specific numbers related to like diversity in certain sports and setting some type of initiative to make sure that, you know, our hockey team isn't like mostly white and affluent, and making sure like these environments are inclusive for students once they do join these sports. And then also I was wondering if you think that your staff would be open to maybe having like roundtables about different social justice issues. So thinking about Colin Kaepernick, and if, you know, basketball starts or football starts and you have certain players who want to bend a knee and they don't want to, like, are coaches ready for those conversations? Are students going to be supported? Are they going to feel attacked by their teammates or their students? So just wondering like more about creating inclusive environments and having these conversations and making sure our coaches and our teachers are ready to have those conversations.
Yes, and for the, you know, since July, when I entered, it feels like everyone is, you know, there's been a lot of change, and I'm just grateful for the opportunity to partner with folks and them to be open and to have an open heart and mind to kind of just be like, okay, here we go again. So I think that's why the Captain's Council is so crucial, because I think our students are going to be able to give me insight as to what are some next steps and how we evolve as a athletic program. So, you know, we faced some of those issues this fall, and students, you know, have the opportunity to express themselves how they want as long as they're being respectful. And we have those conversations in our head coaches council meeting around kind of what to do, providing professional resources and development for them in flooding their emails, I'm sure, you know, with different resources though, and kind of like what are current trends and what's happening. So, you know, you can't prepare for everything. However, we are trying to be proactive and think globally and about the reality of what we're facing now. It's much different than maybe when Mr. Ainsley was playing.
10 years ago. A few years ago, yeah.
But I love the roundtable idea. That's phenomenal. So I'm gonna maybe follow up with you a little bit more about who we could tap into for some of that. Thank you.
Since you dragged me into it.
Uh-oh.
No. It's great, important work, Samantha. This other piece, we all know how successful. Well, we all know. We've experienced, and we can see how successful the fine and performing arts are as a program, as a total program from elementary school on up. And when I talk to the athletic folks, and I talk to the boosters, and I talk to everyone, basically, is we as you know, the athletic department and our athletic offerings and wellness offerings only need, you don't have to search far to find a model to emulate, and we really just have to look at our own district. How do you create a program that, you know, attracts? There's more kids in choir now, and the choral department's probably doubled or tripled the amount of kids that are participating. How do we replicate that? Because that's a great program. So kids want to be a part of it. So how do we replicate that across, you know, the whole school district? Because not all kids have talent that way. We have talents in other ways, and so we just want to make sure that, you know, we're doing what we can at the district level to make sure they have the opportunities. to participate and have a good, consistent experience, when they participate. Not going to win every game, but was it solid? Was I taught well? Taught on the, all the way through. How to prepare, how to participate, how to do this, and how to be a good teammate, and how to be a leader, and all those things. So I was very fortunate to be a part of the culture at the high school when the culture of athletics was outstanding. And so it's hard to, how did they do that back then? It was a long time ago. But we've seen that it can happen, and it does happen. So unfortunately, athletics always has that reputation of the individual coach is individual personality driven, but coaches change and coaches come and go. How's the program? So how do we build a program that's just sustainable, that the kids know that when they're in middle school, it's going to be, when I get to high school, it's going to be a good program when I'm there. So how do we do that? So I guess that's the challenge, I guess, Samantha. Right. You just started in July. So.
And I can comment because I've been grappling with this for 7 years with you, Rob. One of the things we do know is when we look at the raw numbers and the data, the number of athletics has increased significantly also, probably more so than our final performing arts programs. The perception issues, I think, comes back down to individual sports. So if we look at our overall program, we have teams that are competing in the Final Four this weekend. We have teams that are putting young people in state finals every year. A swim team that lost its first match in 20 years. Overall, we have some of the high-performing teams in our state, and over a long period of time, yet we have some teams, when we look at wins and losses, that aren't performing as well most recently, and some numbers of enrollment are going down, but our overall numbers are up. So athletics is a bit different than our final performing arts program because we have to look at 23 different sports and 100+ coaches, which is much more expansive than our final performing arts program. And there's also been a similar trend at the collegiate level also. My alma mater has been winning this cup each year as the best athletic program in the country, but yet there's some teams, the football team, for example, has been awful the last 10 years. But the basketball and the soccer and the tennis teams are winning national championships. But the perception in my hometown is that this athletic program is awful and their AD needs to go. And folks are saying, is that based on the football team? Or are you looking at every other sport too? So I'm hoping if we continue this conversation, what does it look like to have an athletic program? And do we need to now look at individual programs within the program for additional attention and focus to change perceptions and the conversation?
And again, it's just that consistent, outstanding experience. That's really when we talk about it all the time. What is the priority for the board? And when we're out in Lake Placid or anywhere else, our main concern is the student and that student's experience before school, during school, and after school. And that is our priority, and that's our focus. Yeah, and athletics is part of it. The elementary school day, recess is a part of that. It's so outstanding work. More, go ahead.
Well, I have a general question for each of you to answer if you're so inclined. So what's one aspect, and I would like you to narrow it down just to be specific, of the work that you're doing, which is a priority for you to dig deeper, go bigger, make better? And maybe another way to look at it is, the subtext is that, is there an area where you're experiencing barriers to reaching your ideal?
That's a good question.
And you have 15 seconds.
Okay.
So, Eldred can be here tonight.
Where Eldred usually sits.
He just text you that question?
So when Eldred asks those kind of questions, I would say you don't have to answer, but if you'd like to answer, please go ahead.
Yes, I would say you don't have to answer it, but.
It's sort of reminding
Or you can
me,
get back to us.
your question or this challenge that you posed is reminding me of something that we've done in our Critical Friends group, which is the Futures Protocol, which is like, what is your dream? What is it that you see in the future, in your ideal situation? And so at Fall Creek, we just started to have an ENL program, and that is, I mean, it has been so moving, so important, and it has had so many rippling effects throughout the school, including like our librarian coming with conversation about ordering books. Like, you know, we need books in Chinese, we need books in Spanish, we need to, our kids who are coming with other languages need much more of the kind of embrace of the Fall Creek community, where they can feel completely welcome from the minute they step foot off the bus, right? Supported and safe and seen and known and loved, right? And so that goes for English language learners, for any student who my vision is a school where everyone wants to come every day, that is folks from all kinds of parts of the world, and you know, if moms want to come and talk about and exchange English and Chinese words for vegetables at lunch, I'm in, we're all in, right? So that is pretty much the deepest, most heartfelt goal, and we're all there. Like, I think just having these very few brand new English language learners, our little ones, has really changed people for the better, and made us very open to this challenge. Like, there's a lot of work to be done, work that we want to do.
Yeah. All right, it's my turn.
Thanks,
Samantha.
Can you,
Yeah. We're supposed to go in this order.
Dan, can you remind the public what the question was?
I'm gonna have a hard time myself.
Go ahead, Dan.
I have two. I think there's two things for me. I think one part is continuing to build momentum of the work we did last year with our case study work and our trail, to look at some of the case studies we did and to figure out how we can go to the next level, and how to keep it fresh and to keep everyone engaged. And I think the other one for me is computer science. How to integrate computer science work during the school day in a way that's connected to a lot of the work that we're already doing, and so that it's not just a standalone. So those are
And really briefly, I mean, I think right now it's like building that culture of excellence. I mean, what we're talking, I want to live and embody that, and I want consistency, and I want systems and clear practices for what we do and how we do it. And then the ultimate pie in the sky is like, we don't have to turn anybody away. Like, we're able to, whatever sport that they're interested in, and that all of our students are having the best experience possible. And our coaches as well. And then families in the community. I mean, because we collaborate a lot with our, Ithaca Youth Bureau and GIAC and a lot of these different clubs. So just that we're one, like, I don't want to say homogeneous, but just one group, like it all just kind of flows, and we're not competing. We're just together for the betterment of this program, but then also for the betterment of the Newfield program and Dryden. And I mean, it really is about all of us and helping to produce the best human beings we possibly can. So that's kind of like,
Oh, hallelujah.
A non-competitive sports program. How do you feel about that, Rob?
I just want to play. No, I'm serious. I mean, just play. I mean, it's whatever you want to call it. I mean, non-competitive, I don't know, but just play. Yeah, it's.
I would just add also that I would hope that part of the goal too, as two principals at this table, that any family would move to Ithaca and they would never have to ask why Bell Sherman or why Old Creek, because every student that comes to this community would feel welcomed in any building and would be able to achieve and be successful at any building.
Any impossible answer questions that anyone else has?
Closing statements?
Thank you. Clearly, it wasn't impossible to answer.
We appreciate it. It's a great meeting. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
I could give it to you, Samantha.
And we do have a few more items. One of which is a policy that we are not going to vote on. Sean was going to speak to it, but he's not here. Policy committee can obviously speak to it, but we are not going to vote on it, I don't believe.
No, this is if you want me to just start with this, this policy was proposed by our health and wellness coordinator, whoever it's, head nurse, but she has another title.
Also coordinator of health services and wellness.
As opposed to our health and wellness coordinator, yes.
Physical, athletics and wellness.
Athletics and wellness. You see where the problem comes in. Well, in any case, this is about yes, it's about formulating and implementing a policy on epinephrine which goes further than what we currently do. So there are beauties of policy. There are two types of policies. One is on epinephrine. One is that everyone who has a known allergy sends in a little form to the nurse and an EpiPen signed by the doctor saying if there are signs of anaphylaxis, this child will receive epinephrine. This proposed policy is much broader. It's saying that whether or not we know there is an allergy present, if a student or staff member shows signs of going into anaphylaxis, the district will administer epinephrine and then sets out a set of procedures. And this is what Kathy Sennett has recommended in consultation with the county health department. And we wanted to, and in going over what was proposed, Kate brought up some very good points that have to do, for instance, with how this will be actually carried out in practice, because the implementation of this involves selecting and training district staff, which can have implications for our different contracts, our different employees' unions. Will people volunteer? Will they be told to do this? Will they ask to be compensated because this is above and beyond not only the training but being on duty, so to speak? How many people will we need for each building? And so this seems that it would have ramifications beyond just having a policy. And the policy committee felt that rather than implementing a policy before we knew how we were going to carry it forward, we would just point this out for the board to consider. Laura and Kate, what else did Sean want us to bring up?
So I think one of the points where we left the discussion was around the point of if this is a direction that the board is interested in moving in, that maybe instead of putting the cart before the horse, we would actually canvass all of our various bargaining units to see if there's an interest in having volunteers provide this service to the district. If it's something that, should we unveil a policy in this direction, that we would actually have volunteer labor that would be interested in doing this. And I think at this point, we're not really sure whether that would be the case or not. It may well be that there are members of various bargaining units in the district that are very interested in stepping up to the plate, getting this training and being able to provide this service to the district, or perhaps not. So I think that was where we left it. Bob and I were thinking about taking that back to the unions and soliciting input from our employees about how they feel with respect to a policy of this nature. So seeing as though it's not something that's mandatory, but something that's permissive for the district to do if it wants to move in that direction.
How many cases of anaphylaxis did we have last year for someone that didn't have an EpiPen?
None. So in the time that Kathy Sinnett's been here, there has not been a case of anaphylaxis that's been documented. At least that's what she said.
Right, but she hasn't been for that long. And we don't seem to know before that. Just picking up on what Kate said, and she's saying we have no obligation as a school district to implement this policy that would allow the use of epi with a non-patient specific order, right? So a question that was raised at this is, if we do adopt such a policy, are we making a promise, an implicit promise to the community that we would do this and do this competently? And I just know for me, the actual implementation of this seemed to have a lot of complexities. Like, where would these EpiPens be? How many would they be in any school building? Apparently, a lot of districts are, or if they're doing this, they're storing the EpiPens with the defibrillator machines. But then there was a question about security. And I kept thinking back to my experience of teaching in Ithaca High School, and that, in a lot of cases, the EpiPens are, and currently the ones in the elementary schools, are kept in the nurse's office. I taught in F4 in Ithaca High School. That's a really long way from the nurse's office to, and even how do people communicate. So there just seem to be a lot of questions about this that made me wonder whether this is a road we want to go down. And it's also, we initially thought that we were looking at a policy where the epi could be administered to anyone without a prescription, staff, students, or visitors. Well, apparently not visitors, so we would only be able to do it with staff or students.
Well, that's just weird. I'm sorry, I can't give that to you.
Yeah, so it's like, okay, this person's, can I see your ID, please? Like, I don't know, like, are you a staff or a student? Kathy Sinnett, our head nurse, coordinator of health services and wellness, was talking about there seems to be interest in having EpiPens available at athletic events. But there too, it's like, okay, you're having a symptom, are you a staff or student?
If not, we're
and
just
if
gonna,
not,
sorry.
well, I guess we call 911, but,
Exactly.
Well,
so, yeah.
And I raised that point.
Yeah.
Why don't we just call 911? And she was saying that often in cases of anaphylaxis, immediate treatment is of the essence, and then people still have to be transported to hospitals.
Would you need permission just to keep it in the first aid kit that the coaches keep?
I think we would, if we're gonna have it in the first aid kit, we need some kind of policy on how to administer it.
Yeah.
Because you can't just have it in the first aid kit unless you know which kids have.
And who's trained to use it.
Or maybe
Right.
coaches.
You have to build a capacity.
Well,
Yeah, so to the point that, just to address that issue,
Yeah.
that's kind of the threshold issue around epinephrine. It is a substance, it's a medication that can only be typically administered with a medical license
Right.
unless you fall into one of these narrow carve-outs that have been created. So one is for nursing professionals and non-nursing professionals to administer epinephrine, and the policy that's being discussed now is the basically unskilled medical, non-medical professionals to be able to administer epinephrine. But ordinarily, without being, being trained, but not actually possessing medical licenses.
Right.
I'm going to call a timeout.
Okay.
I feel that we're
Yeah.
venturing into those fascinating policy meetings that I so enjoy.
Well, we wanted
And I
you
do
to feel
wonder.
like you'd actually been to the policy meeting.
And I actually have been. I've been to a few. And there is a reason it's taken us 4 years to go through the policy book, but it's we're working on it.
The first half of the policy book.
Yeah,
almost.
exactly. I know, first half. So I think obviously interesting input on this policy, which is not ready for prime time, which is where we are right now. So
Is there any sense on the part of the board that it would be worthwhile to, at the very least, find out if there's interest among staff for volunteering?
so that's the question of the day. So is this the highest best use of the policy committee? I mean, how many is this
We've had 2 meetings on this already.
Yeah. So,
for how many incidents?
The big zero.
for the big, yeah.
I think we let this rest.
I think, I think there's other health issues that we probably are far more involved with than this one. So, just saying. So, glad to have you all bring it back. Well, if there's some compelling interest to do so. Brad, am I speaking out of turn?
No, that'd be my feeling is.
You're just going down another rabbit hole, going down a road that we don't need to go?
We got how many buildings, and you gotta make sure you have the right number of volunteers in every building. I mean,
I'm looking at how many risk,
this is gonna be quite a task.
how many opportunities for risk by someone who didn't, injecting someone who I just don't even go there, so, all right.
I think we have said some things.
Okay, well, we will bring that back to the policy committee. We
And
look
Sean
forward to
can, you know,
You may never hear about it again.
that's good. There's lots of policies. Any other discussion items since we ventured into policy and everybody hung in there? Appreciate that. Anything else for anything? Dr. Brown? You really don't, you want anything else you want to bring up, Dr. Brown? This is your...
I thought about it, but no.
Another board meeting killed by policy.
Bring it up for discussion.
Let it go.
Upcoming dates of importance, obviously this is for November. We are meeting on our regular dates. This is in December, so November we're still meeting Thanksgiving week or whatever. Everybody's
Finance and HR are meeting
Combination
Next
joint
on the Monday.
Monday the 20th.
and you're
At
running
5:45.
5:45, Monday the 20th at 5:45.
Yes.
and right. So that's noted on your sheet. We'll all be there. And we'll all be a policy one of these days too, so, because we can, because Kate says we can. So good, so we're set, regular meetings, lots of meetings in November, and then, without objection, I'm saying lots of people that should go home and do other things and get ready for tomorrow. We are adjourned.